In the last episode, we saw how Blandford had developed into the town it is today thanks to the railway. Little remains of the station now, but the track bed onwards to Shillingstone survives as a trailway. At Milldown, the line has already climbed significantly, hugging the course of the River Stour. Before the build-up of vegetation, this must have offered spectacular views from the train of the river valley below. On the other side of the valley is Bryanston Private School. The school occupies a palatial country house built in 1889 to 1894. The building and estate was the biggest in Dorset and the last of the grand stately homes to be built in England, formerly owned by Viscount Portman. People walking this section of trailway often feel they're being watched. Could the sleepers used in the construction of this old barn have originated from the lifted track bed? We enter Blackmore Vale, designated as an area of outstanding natural beauty. On a glorious day like this, it's easy to understand why the Somerset and Dorset Railway is perhaps the most lamented, long-lost railway in the country. In Stourpane sits a single-track road bridge over the river. In July 1929 it was the scene of an accident when a lorry operated by Parks of Portsmouth almost careered over the bridge. The scene was so significant for the village at the time it was captured for these postcards. Thankfully, the bridge today is traffic signal controlled. Serving the two villages of Stourpayne and Derweston, a halt was provided halfway between them. The site of the old station can just be glimpsed amongst the trees. The platforms were of precast concrete construction, which last well, but after all these years they are now showing signs of decay. The structure seems to have become unstable, as is evident here that the farmer has had to remove some sections and plank the gaps instead. Keeping people away from potential harm from the site seems to have presented some challenges also. The path from the halt leads to Stourpayne Holy Trinity Church. The first documentary evidence is contained in Domesday, and there is a record of a gift of land to the church in 1085. Humphrey the Chamberlain gave half a hide, roughly 70 acres, to the church. Over the years, various renovations have been carried out. Sometime in the 15th century, the nave and tower were pulled down and new ones in the Perpendicular style of the time were erected. The tower still remains. Today, Holy Trinity is well maintained and plays a prominent role in the life of Stourpayne. The high embankment ahead was designed to not only protect the railway from the river's floodplain, but also the village, a role it still performs today. The railway crossed the River Stour many times on its journey, and some of the most glorious locations can be found at these points on the line. With ever-increasing pressure on our congested roads, some of the bridge spans have been replaced with lighter structures to provide a more or less continuous stretch of trailway in this section. This is the remarkable achievement of support groups working in partnership with local councils. The foundations for the new bridges, though, still utilise the original brick-built flood arches and abutments. Sadly, all the Stour bridges were dismantled after closure in an attempt to rid responsibility for their ongoing maintenance costs, as all the centre spans were of rusting iron and steel. A short distance upriver is the Iron Age hill fort of Hod Hill. Hod Hill developed into a large Iron Age community consisting of over 200 roundhouses. However, when the Romans arrived in the mid-1st century AD, the resident Durotriges tribe resisted the conquest and the hill fort was seized. The settlement was disbanded and it was used for a few years as a Roman military base. Hod Hill is one of a chain of hill forts in the area, the others being Hambledon Hill and Babbury Rings, all built and occupied by the same Iron Age tribe. As we approach the village of Shillingstone, another Iron Age fort comes into view, Hambledon Hill, another member of the chain of forts we mentioned earlier. Although the trailway is best viewed from the air in leafless winter, the landscape view surrounding Hambledon Hill is stunning on a clear summer's day. Standing at 192 metres or 630 feet, our drone's altitude wasn't that much higher to capture these scenes. After a steep and tiring climb to the top, we can think of no better place to recover, rest and taking refreshments than Shillingstone Station. We approach our destination, the working museum of the former Somerset and Dorset Railway at Shillingstone Station. Set in the beautiful surroundings of the River Stour in the heart of Blackmore Vale in the Dorset countryside. When we said the line ran to Bath, some local inhabitants took our comment literally. Lovingly restored by a small team of dedicated volunteers, we can once again experience the splendour of the rural setting of the S&D thanks to the North Dorset Railway. At the time of filming, the station sadly had been closed for quite some time due to the pandemic, and they said it wasn't looking its best when usually the platforms are adorned with flowers, typical vintage rural station furniture such as milk churns and baggage trolleys. During the making of this episode, the railway received the wonderful news that their expansion planning application has been approved. This represents a giant leap forward, and in the next episode we'll discuss the challenges ahead and see work begin on the expansion. We'll be dedicating a whole episode to tell the history and their story of the extraordinary achievement of restoring this station, not only back from dereliction but aspiring for someday future public operation.